So I just arrived in Mammoth, and if you've ever been to Mammoth before, or you haven't been, either way, Rick's Sports Center is going to be the place you got to stop in to gear up.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Marshall. Welcome to Rick's Sports Center. I'll have come show you, take a look around the shop. So out front here we have all of our rods. Whether you're doing some ultralight spinning stuff with some mini jigs, maybe doing some more bait fishing with some worms, night crawlers, or if you're even doing some trolling, we've got some lead core setups here as well. If you come back towards the back end of the shop, we got all of our Rapalas, jerk baits, your pins, minnows from Missouri. We'll have our bigger blue foxes and other good trolling lures like your speed shiners, your bigger Thomas buoyants. And as we make our way down to this back wall here, we'll have our needlefish, flatfish for trolling still. And then one of the most popular casting lures in the whole Sierras is going to be your Thomas buoyant. Now specifically in that red gold color is what everyone comes in for. We have this in the 1/8 size as well as the 1/4 ounce size. Between those two sizes, that's generally going to match up with whatever pound test line you're fishing, and if it's a lighter rod, you might want to aim for the smaller spoons. We also got the new mook lures in. These are going to have those extra little rattles, create a little bit more noise. Those have been real popular. And then you'll see a lot of guys come in for stuff like your rooster tails, your panther martins. These smaller bladed lures that are going to have a prop on the front are going to be real popular for your creeks, streams, all that kind of stuff. Then down in this section, we'll have our mini jigs. I'd say mini jigging has become one of the most productive and popular ways to fish the Eastern Sierras. Here, for instance, I have the Gorditos in the 1/16 ounce. Generally, I recommend fishing these on a 2-pound test, ultralight rod, or with a very light braid. Something like a 4-pound or 5-pound braid is ideal to get those lightweight jigs out for as much distance as possible. Aside from our jigs there, we have all of our cheese string rigs, our worm stream rigs, plenty of leader material. This is going to be ideal if you're kind of getting into it, you're not sure with all your knots and everything. This is going to make it really easy to snap on a pre-made leader and get fishing with some night crawlers or bait without having to tie any knots or any preparation. Past the leaders, we'll have all of our blades, our swivels, and more line on the bottom to fill up some of your spools. And that pretty much wraps up most of what we have in the shop.
So let me ask you, I got to give a shout out to my buddy Nick Miller. He comes up here all the time.
Sure.
He prefers power bait fishing for stock or trout. You got him covered?
Oh yeah, so if you look kind of along the bottom here, we got assortment of power bait. We're coming into the late fall, so you'll find a bigger assortment earlier in the summer, especially springtime. We're very well stocked, but we have all the essentials right now. So the garlic power bait is what you're going to want. We also have it in some other formulas with like a fake worm in there. And then maybe the #1 most popular bait for the Eastern Sierras is going to be the Gulp Pinch Crawler. Now this isn't just the pinch crawler, but it's specifically the floating night crawler. And that's important because when you're doing your Carolina rigs, everything's going to be floating off the bottom. So any bait like power bait or a fake floating pinch crawler that's going to float for you, it's going to make your job a little bit easier. Come back into this corner, we'll get into more of our fly fishing oriented section of the shop. We do have some nice catch and release nets from Adamsville here, as well as a big assortment of first terrestrials, like all of your grasshoppers. We got some big floating ants.
Let's go back a step. Terrestrial. When you say terrestrial, you mean like creatures? Like I would call them creatures, but because this isn't the ocean, it's going to be the things that creep and crawl. The
thing that's going to make something a terrestrial is it's not an aquatic insect. So with fly fishing, you fish a lot of mayflies, you'll be fishing a lot of caddis, a lot of midges.
And those are aquatic insects.
Those are all going to be insects that are going to hatch in the water, come up to the surface, and then a lot of their adult forms will fly off. Terrestrials will cover everything that's going to be born on land, like your ants, your grasshoppers, all of those things. Generally, terrestrials are going to be a little bit bigger. You can get away with a lot of foam patterns. So these are real popular for dry droppers, where you might use your grasshopper as an indicator and drop a small nymph off the bottom. So you have a lot of bigger terrestrials here.
And that foam's going to help it float?
Exactly. The foam's going to float all day long. Otherwise, with some of your other elk hair, caddis and stuff, you'll have to use some kind of powder to keep it dry, keep it floating up high all day long. So over here we got our midge box. If you're fishing Crowley Lake, this is pretty much going to be all you need to get out there. The #1 fly I'd fish in the Sierras is going to be this real simple zebra midge. Now it's real small. I think Luke will have a better picture to show you. However, this to me is my watermelon Senko. It's going to be the safest thing I could throw in the water to see if there's fish there. This fly will work at almost any lake that you go to, and generally all you're going to be doing is fishing it underneath an indicator like one of these, depending on the water depth. So something like that can work at any of our local lakes off the shore. It works off float tubes, off boats. You can fish these things at 5 feet, you can fish them at 30 feet. This is what a lot of our trout will key in on, as midges and chronomids are going to be the most prevalent bug that we have in our lakes that the trout will really key in on. Moving further along, we have more mayfly imitations. These are more popular for the river. So a lot of your mayflies will have your copper johns. We're going to have down here more of your smaller midges, some buzzards, and moving into some PMDs and pheasant tails. All this stuff are prevalent hatches, especially in the springtime in the Sierras. We will still get some mayflies this time of year. However, I'd say the spring is generally when you'll find your bigger calabatus, your bigger blue-winged olives, and that's when these will fish the best. We also have a wide variety of dry flies, so you'll have all of your caddis. These start fishing really good in the fall. Caddis do get bigger as the season goes on, so as we get into October, your October caddis patterns, more in your bigger size 14s, are going to start working well. We'll also have all of your blue-winged olive dry flies. We'll get real small here down to like a size 22 hook. So for real technical fishing, I like to have that kind of pink tuff on top. It helps me pick the fly out of the water when you're dealing with such a small fly. These are going to be real popular for creeks like Hot Creek. The Owens River can fish the blue-winged olives well at times as well. And moving further down, we just have some more PMDs and some other mayfly imitations for dry flies. Next, we have all of our streamers in these two boxes here. We have streamers anywhere from your standard woolly bugger, just black like that, to some bigger articulated stuff. Certain guys like to come and try to weed out those bigger fish, so you might find that they'll fish a sinking line with something a little bit bigger there, like your Gallup Zoo Cougars, your butt monkeys, and your bangtails. All great options fishing locally for some of those bigger fish. Lastly, we'll move into our balanced leeches and our heavier tungsten jigs. For our tungsten jig flies, these are real popular for the river as they do a great job of adding that extra weight you need to cut down through the current. This will eliminate the need for split shot a lot of the time because I have enough weight on my rig already. So when I'm fishing moving water, I like to use big heavy beads like these big tungsten jigs. I also have these tungsten jigs in a basic zebra pattern like we described earlier. And the biggest thing lately for most folks has been the balance leeches. So these are one of the most versatile flies that you can fish everywhere, whether it be for trout, bass, bluegill, tilapia. If you're down at Balboa, everything will eat these. So I have them in black, and then at Crowley, real popular, we'll be using the perch colors. So this is going to be an imitation for the little perch fry that we have swimming in the lake. Fishing these under an indicator, just like we will our nymphs and our midges, is a very, very productive way to fish the Sierras. And back over this way, got a few personal rods down below, but we do carry a selection of fly rods between Echo, TFO, Scott. We got you covered depending on what you're looking for. We also have some Adams built, ready to fish, pre-made fly rod combos that'll have your leader, reel, and everything you need to get started out there. as well as some shirts, t-shirts, waders, boots, and fins for accessing everything you need in the area. Thanks for coming by, Rick's. Hope we were able to show you some things today. I'd like to show you guys a couple rigs as well. And thanks for coming by. I'm Marshall. Come on in and come see us and say hi.
I was just asking Marshall if any of these trout are native species or if they're all, what would be the word, imported, stocked?
Yeah, stocked.
So it's a pretty interesting answer.
So yeah, so in the Mammoth area specifically, we don't really have any native trout. So you will find further south in the Kern, we'll have native Goldens, and then further north, we'll have native cutthroats. That being said, the only native fish you're gonna find in the Mammoth Lakes area will be a small chub called the tui chub. Aside from the tui chub, we have a lot of wild fisheries where fish have been stocked and repopulated over time, so you do have a good wild fish population. That's where you'll see a lot of the bigger double-digit brown trout. But aside from that, most of our fish have been either stocked at some point or will be the smaller chubs.
How big are the chubs?
Chubs, depending on where you find them, I've caught them in Crowley in that maybe 1.5 to 2 pound range.
So when chubs aren't technically a trout?
No, it's going to be like a sucker fish kind of thing. They're protected, so not one that you want to kill and keep. But it is the one fish that's truly native to this area. And then we also have our Sacramento perch in Crowley, and those were also stocked, but came from the Sacramento.